Hi, and welcome to Peschu's Corner. In today's lesson, we are going to look at the non-price determinants of demand. The non-price determinants of demand relate to all other factors that can make demand change. So let's start with the law of demand first, which just mapped a relationship between price and quantity demanded. And if you remember, it said that ceteris paribus, an increase in the price will lead to a fall in the quantity demanded. Ceteris paribus. Okay, so the law of demand simply stated that we have a negative relationship between the price and the quantity demanded, given that all else is being equal. Now, in today's lesson, we're interested in this part. Everything else. What is everything else, and why does it need to stay constant? So, as a matter of fact, there's several factors that commonly can influence the level of demand. And these are known as the non-price determinant of demand, right? The price is the price determinant, and everything else is the non-price determinant of demand. So let's make a list. Non-price determinants of demand. And these are, right, this. There's several main ones that you need to be aware of. The first one is income, commonly referred to as Y. Y is the chosen letter that we use to abbreviate for income. I is usually kept for investment. Now, the next one is the price of related goods. So, price of related goods. Then we can have preferences, and we can have demographic changes. And actually, we can have others, but you need to be aware at least of these four. Income, price of related goods, preferences, and demographic changes. Now, what each of these will do is they will affect the level of demand. For example, the demand for smartphones will be depending on the level of income of the people who buy the smartphones, right? If your income increases, maybe you would be more willing and able to buy the new iPhone. If your income decreases, perhaps you move away from the expensive Apple and buy something more affordable. The price of related goods deals with goods that are either used together with the product, let's say cars and driving cars and buying petrol. You cannot do, well, unless you have an electric car, but let's say if you have a petrol running car, then you need the petrol to buy to drive the car. So if the price of petrol increases, maybe your demand for owning a car will decrease. We have also substitute goods. Let's say goods that are being used one or another. For example, Coca-Cola and Pepsi. If you want to buy Coca-Cola, or let's say if the price of Coca-Cola increases, then maybe the demand for Pepsi will increase, because relative to the Coca-Cola, as the price of Coke increases, the price of Pepsi will appear cheaper. Even though it's not changing, it will be becoming relatively cheaper with regard to Coke. Preference is simple enough. If we like something, then the demand for that should increase. If we don't like something, demand should fall. And demographic changes deals with population trends. If the population is increasing, there's more people to buy, demand should rise. If the population is falling, demand should also decrease because there's less people. Now, all of these, I have made different videos, and you can actually go and watch them, and you see the details of the income, and that includes normal and inferior goods, price of related goods, which will include complements and substitutes, preferences and demographic changes. What I will show you in this lesson is the difference between a shift and a movement along of the demand curve, which is really important. Often examiners pay special attention to whether students use accurately these terms. And the rule is relatively simple. If the price changes, so if P changes, let's say P of X, because our good is, we have good X, right? So if P of X changes, this would mean that the quantity demanded for X is changing. Quantity demanded for X changes, and we have a movement along the curve. Oops. If any of the non-price determinants of demand changes, so what this means, effectively saying that we are breaking that ceteris paribus rule. So if one of these factors is changing, what we are going to have is we are going to derive a new demand curve. We create a new demand curve, and to illustrate that, we will shift the demand curve. Okay, we'll see it in a second. And when you see it, hopefully it will become very clear. But again, the rule of thumb states that if P of X changes, quantity demanded of X will change. If income changes, or the price of related good changes, or the preferences, or the demographics of a country change, then we will shift the demand curve and we'll create a new one. So let's see this in action. And hopefully it will become clear. All right. This is our quantity. This is the price. And this is our original demand. And let's say that we are at point A, where we'll have a price of A and quantity A. Now, if so if P of A drops down to P of B, and let's say this will be my P of B, we're gonna have a movement along the demand curve, right? We are changing the price. So if P of A falls to P of B, then move along from A to B. So to find B, we go like this. This will be our point B. This will be the corresponding quantity QB. And hopefully you can see that over here we are moving along, right? We go along the demand curve. Nothing scary. We've seen this before. Now, imagine that if income changes. So let's say if income increases, and let's say this product is becoming more demanded. So this will be a normal good. But again, all that is explained in a separate video, guys. But if income increases and it has a positive effect on the demand, what is going to happen is that demand will increase. Now notice, over here, from A to B, as we were lowering the price, the quantity demanded was increasing. Over here, as we're increasing income, demand is increasing. Now, the way we can illustrate this is by shifting the demand curve to the right. So this would be D1. And now we're going to have another demand, D2. D2, so from D1 to D2. Notice that D2 is greater than D1. And we can prove this very easily. If we take any random point, like this, let's call this PC, we can see that the corresponding quantity demanded for D1, let's call this QC1, and the corresponding quantity demanded for D2, let's go QC2. The corresponding quantity demanded for D2 will always be greater than the corresponding quantity demanded for D1. That's why D2 is greater than D1. So what this means is that whenever those non-price determinants of demand change and there is a positive effect on the demand, we are going to create a new demand curve, just like we did here, and we're going to shift it to the right. If we are modifying those non-price determinants of demand and they have a negative effect on the demand, let's say our income is falling and we're becoming poorer and we can buy less, then what we're going to see is a decrease in demand. So from D2 to D1, going the other way around, and the demand will fall. So this is a shift. From D1 to D2 is a shift of the demand curve, and from D2 to D1 is a shift of the demand curve again. And to sum up, the difference between a movement along and a shift of the demand curve is that we move along the demand curve only when we have a change in the price of that good, such as the case from A to B. But as was the case of having a change in the non-price determinants of demand, we are going to generate a new demand line, like with it here. And then we're going to shift, either to the right if we're increasing the demand, or to the left or if we are decreasing the demand. All right, well, I hope this clears things out. Make sure to check my videos on the non-price determinants of demand, where I go in details about changes in the income or changes in the price of related goods or changes in the preferences and the demographics of a country. Right, guys? I hope you enjoyed this lesson. If you did, please hit the like button, and even better, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you again. Take care.